Well, actually, on the 1st of June was the 2nd anniversary of Japanese with Liz, and my YouTube channel, which is the intent of that was to help me kind of chronicle working as a Japanese teacher, but then some stuff happened. I moved out of the city that I was living into, and I moved to Japan, and then I moved to a metropolitan, and so now I am just having some time to sit down and bring you guys back up to speed with what I've been doing. And I've been working a lot in the public school system, which is challenging some days, and so I had to kind of put Japanese with Liz on the back burner while we got situated in our new home and figured out kind of some stuff. We had a pretty messy start at our new place, and so I was not able to do the videos like I had been hoping I would be able to, but I'd like to rectify that today by bringing you a review on kanji. And I have 4 series that I'm going to review today, and I'm going to go ahead and start with well, let's go ahead and start with the 2 really good books, and I'll show you the 2 supplements after. First, we have Kanji Look and Learn. And I really like Kanji Look and Learn because it's by the same folks that did Genki. And they went to a lot of trouble to put this together for us. It does have 2 books. You do have to have the workbook to be able to do it, because the textbook doesn't actually have any exercises in it, which would probably be one of the cons of the series in total, but it's not by any means something that I think is a true problem, because the workbook is fabulous. But if you don't know that you need the workbook and you buy this, you're going to be pretty disappointed. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the pages. Just open up to page 1. Here's the kanji that they teach you, and this darn it. This should be pretty typical kanji for a beginner. This is the same kanji that they show you in the Genki books, except it's a little bit out of order. So you learn, so it's reinforcing the kanji, the first kanjis that they teach you in the Genki book, and then it throws in a couple other ones over here. It uses mnemonics and illustrations, which are really cool. So for example, we have the kanji for 1, and the illustration is 1 finger, and the mnemonic is 1 is represented by 1 finger, which I think is pretty cute that they do that. And they do this for all the chapters, so even if you get into some of the more complicated stuff, this one, it's political party. It's kanji 400 in this series, and it's a person, and he's walking into a building with some stuff on the top of it, and it says, my brother, because this is the same kanji as for brother, joined a political party. And so that's kind of cute. Oni wa seito ni hairimashita. And it gives you some vocabulary, and the onyomi and the kunyomi. Every kanji book that you use should give you onyomi and kunyomi readings. If they're not doing that, find a different book. So that's the textbook, and I think the textbook is fabulous. I'm not going to deal with it right now. The workbook, which you do have to have, is really great because there's so many examples and there's so much practice. So it breaks it down into each chapter from the workbook. It's broken down into 2 sections so that the kanji you're only learning 6 at a time, which is really helpful, I think, because if you learn more than 6 at a time, you don't retain it as well. Some people go for 10, and they're very ambitious, and good luck to them. But I find for most students, 6 is pushing it almost. So here we have all of this practice, and it's all really fabulous practice. These are numbers. The first chapter was numbers, so it's reinforcing the numbers from the previous page, and it's introducing you to some new stuff up here. And then it has, most chapters have some kind of like Renshu lesson type review. And the first one is this black and white menu where they teach you to kind of read a Japanese menu, and then at the bottom they ask you the prices of each of the items. So if you want to eat a gyudon, which would be this one right here, gyudon, you come down and it's 800 yen, which is, pretty fancy when you start looking into how to actually read menus. And you'll see menus like this in Japan, so the practicality of this is really cool. Then there's a couple other things that it teaches you, and I really like that it doesn't overload you. It teaches you exactly what you need to know to be able to be successful in each of the readings at the end of each chapter. So that's really awesome. There's just an abundance of practice in the workbook. The cons of this is that it does require you to purchase 2 books, and if you don't know that, you're in trouble. But other than that, I really don't have much to complain about with this series. The one thing I wish that they had done that they didn't do was that they taught the kanji the same way that they teach it in the Genki books. And what I mean by that is when you start looking at the chapters that they teach you here, they teach you 512 kanji here. And I think they don't teach that many between Genki 1 and 2. So there's some, and this doesn't happen in all of the chapters, but in like chapter 1, for example, you don't learn Kuchi and Mei in chapter 1 of the Genki textbooks, and so these are kind of tossed in here. So if you're doing the exercises at the back of the Genki textbook plus this, you got 2 new kanji that you didn't know about, and that's really, and that's such a minor thing to complain about, but it is something that I wish they had been consistent with. Okay, so that takes care of that one. Next, we have basic kanji. And basic kanji is my favorite. This is what my university used. And I like this because, as I said in previous videos, I am a huge fan of learning the radicals. Because if you learn the radicals, it just makes your life so much easier. And so, this series sets up you learning radicals. Here's the first chapter. They set you up with learning some radicals. And right from the beginning, as soon as you open this book, it's having you make inferences. So it's having you look at this picture and this first exercise is guess the meanings of these kanji characters. And so you're making inferences right away. You're like, oh, well, I think maybe this character looks kind of like this guy's mouth, so I think this is the character for mouth, and maybe this one looks kind of like this cart right here, so maybe that's what that means. And so you're making guesses right from the very beginning, and you're using that inferencing that is really vital to your reading skills, and I really like that. As you go through this book, there's a lot of practice, so like there's just so much practice. You practice each character. Gosh, I don't even know how many times. It depends on how many strokes there are in it, honestly. And then there's just like some reading practices where they get you working with the kanji that you just learned. And then as you go through it, they reinforce that kanji. I mean, here's this picture again, and now you're putting in the meanings from that inferencing page, you know. And so I just really appreciate all of the work that you get. And I really don't have any complaints about this series. I think this is, if you get this series, you're gonna just mow through kanji like candy. It's so fabulous. The only complaint I do have with this series is after a while it starts to feel kind of like a drill. And when it starts to feel like a drill, people get bored. So that's really the only thing. There are 4 books to this series, but the basic comes in the first 2, and they each teach you 500 kanji, and the intermediate books, they each teach you 1,000. So by the time you're done, you've learned 3,000 kanji if you complete the whole series, and I really like it. But again, this was used at my university in Japan. And I have this book. This is a Kanji Power book, and I don't have a whole lot of great things to say about this, but one of the pros is that there's really interesting vocabulary introduced. So for example, on page 10, it's we've got this sentence here that says sankaku o kaku. Well, sankaku is triangle, and I didn't know that until I started playing a children's game where it taught you basic shapes and stuff. So there's some really interesting vocabulary just in general in this book. This was the very first kanji book I ever picked up. I was 14, and so I have the really old edition. The new edition is silver, and I tried to work through this at 14 by myself, and I couldn't do it. So this is not one I would recommend for people who are starting out, but this is one that I think is easier for people to get a hold of, so they purchase it, because you can buy this at major book retailers in the United States. Barnes & Noble carries it. That's where I bought this one. And I just don't think that this is a great one to start out with. There are better ones. This one was originally published in 1993, so I probably bought it around 2000 or somewhere around there. I was really young. Might have been 99. So it's and they have updated it, but I just don't think that it's as good as some of the other out there. But I had to include it because, like I said, it's really easy to obtain, and probably a few people have this sitting on their shelves. And then I have the final thing that I'd like to review today is the Kanji de Manga series, and this series is a really great supplement. But if you want to learn kanji, this is not how I would start. And basically, my reason for this is it's really cool because a lot of people start Japanese because of anime and manga, and they want to watch anime without any kind of assistance. That's usually why a lot of kids get started, and they want to be able to read manga in the raw. And I applaud that. That's a great goal. And so people pick this up. They're like, oh, this will teach me how to read anime or the manga. And if that is your goal, go ahead and pick this up, but supplement it. Supplement this with one of the other book series, because as you'll see, it introduces you to about, I think this one introduces you to 26 or 28 kanji. And this is all the practice you get on each page, and it goes through the entire series like this. And each of the little comic books, it's got a lot of hiragana and katakana and sound effects, onomatopoeias, and then they make a point to only emphasize that one kanji that they're teaching you, so you're not getting any of the previous kanji that you've learned, and I think that's a problem. There should be some reinforcement of what you're learning, but if manga is your goal, this is a great supplement for learning your kanji. I just wouldn't stake all of your learning on this series. And there are 6 books in this series. I do have all of them because I got them on sale. And I wanted to have the entire series because, like I said, I use them as a supplement for my students that I work with. And it's got this really cool sound effects and this Yoji Jukugo, which is like 4 kanji sayings, like 2 birds in a basket or 2 peas in a pod. And the idea is if you can pepper this into your Japanese, it makes you sound really smart. One of them is something to do with a monkey falling out of a tree. So like even monkeys fall out of trees, which is like everybody fails at something. I tried to use that in a conversation once. It didn't go well for me. But that's just, these are 2 more supplemental items by that same company, and I don't want to review them again later, so here they are. But so those are the 4 big series that I have that I think a lot of people probably have access to. And I would just like to show you again the 2 that I think are the best, which are the basic kanji and the kanji look and look. Either of these are going to put you on the right path to learning kanji. They're both great, and they have lots of practice, and I think really when you're learning kanji, having just an abundance of practice is what you need. The other stuff is supplemental, and it's great, and you'll do good with it if you stick to it and you have a regiment that you're doing. Bonus, recently started studying Japanese the way that they would study it if I were in a Japanese elementary school. And that brought me to buying Mainichi no Doriru. And these are really neat because they break it down according to what you would get if you were in shogakusei student, so like an elementary school student. So this is shogaku ichinen. So this is first graders. And I'm just gonna go ahead and open this up for you. It does tear out, and so this is kind of the table of contents for this unit. And there's 80 kanji total. I went through and counted. And then on the back it has, some drawings, because this is really the best way to learn kanji is with a drawing. If you make them up yourself, you're more dedicated than I am. But here's a lesson that I did. And it shows you like 3 kanji for lesson 1. So they're breaking it down just for little kids, like making it super easy for them. And it has all kinds of words that you can learn, pronunciations. And you can see here I've taken a lot of notes on it, some practice, and then on the back it has sentences that little kids would be completing in their elementary school. And so you can see I've taken a lot of notes. I've highlighted and filled in things that I didn't know. Or like uniform. I know what a uniform is, but it's just really weird to see it sometimes in katakana, so I went ahead and wrote that in. Let's see. Let's look at a couple others. There, after so many lessons in a chapter, I think it's 5 or 6. It's 4. So after 4, they give you matome no testo, which is kind of like a little review test. And it goes through and asks you to do each of the kanji. And then on the back is some sentences that you're going to fill in. Some of them you may have seen from the lesson, some of them you may not have. There's some new vocabulary. And then here you see I've graded myself. On this one I got 84%. And a little sticker. So anything that's A's or B's I give myself stickers for. If it's anything less than that I have to go back and review. But this one I purchased at Kinokuniya online. And you have to be really careful when you're buying this because the series has a couple of different areas where it's got kanji, and then it's got kotopa tobun, which is like sentences and words, and there's like even a math section. So you just want to be real careful when you're purchasing to make sure that you purchase the kanji units if this is what you decide to go with. But this was kind of fun just because it's fun to see what the little kids in Japan are doing. And then when you can, I started this because I went to a bookstore and I found a whole bunch of elementary school level kokugo, which is like native language courses, so like English books. If you were a first grader taking an English course in America, I found the equivalent in a bookstore here. Somebody's parents got rid of their books. And I picked them up for about $4 a piece and decided to go that route. So that's really kind of a neat way to go if you have access to it. Not everybody does. which is why I did the other kanji first, and I'm just kind of tacking this on as a bonus review because it's kind of neat. I will eventually do a video on kind of what my current study regimen is, but for now, I would just like to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the kanji books that you pick, and best of luck with your language learning journey.